A week full of championship matches as both the champions, the TNT and the NXT champions, they both retained their titles this week. One on Vengeance Day, the other one on Dynamite. We're going to jump into both shows this week here on the Debrief with special guest Mihir Joshi joining us from WWE Commentary. Stick around. It's the Debrief right now on Sportskeeda Wrestling.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
It's Wednesday night, and you know what time it is. It's time for the Debrief here on Sportskeeda Wrestling. What's up, everyone? I'm Jose G. Next to me, the top Chico himself, Rico El Glorioso. And we're here. We're going to dive in deep really quickly into both AEW and NXT's Vengeance Day. Both shows were really good. We're gonna dive into that. Before we get started, make sure you guys are hitting like, share, and subscribe right now. Smash that notification bell if you're watching us on YouTube. We're well on our way to 26,000. We're only 200 subscribers away. So help us get there by smashing that notification bell so you don't miss whenever we drop brand new content. And also, if you're watching us on Facebook, give us the like emoji, the heart emoji, engage with the show. That's really important. If you engage with the show, a lot more people watch it. Thank you to the thousands and thousands of you that have been tuning in every single week. We appreciate you and we love you. Later on in the show, we will be having Mihir Joshi, TV host and WWE commentator. Let me just move this way so you guys can see me. You go WWE commentator in Hindi. So he's going to be joining us later on to talk about the Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards and to give his take on NXT and AEW Dynamite. So make sure you guys tune in for that. It's going to be an awesome show. So Rico, what you think, bro? AEW Dynamite. I think this show was really good. For the fact that there wasn't like no title changes, no big returns or anything like that. It was just a solid show from a wrestling standpoint. The matches that they put on, the opening promo with CM Punk sitting down in the middle of the ring, and now we know that we're going to get a dog collar match here in Orlando on March 6th. I'm just even more hyped up about this pay-per-view. Now we know that we're going to have a triple threat tag team title match at Revolution. There's going to be 2 battle royals going on to find out who's going to be the 2 number 1 contenders that are going to head into Revolution for that triple threat. We also had an amazing TNT championship match tonight and an awesome no DQ match with Thunder Rosa and Mercedes Martinez. To be honest, bro, this was a pay-per-view caliber card tonight.
It's like they know there's something big on the horizon in about 3 weeks' time. And it's like you kind of have to build to that, right? Like you want to make sure you have the best storylines. You have all these feuds hitting their fever pitch at the right time for a pay-per-view. Wow, it's crazy how that works. It's crazy how timing and how properly scheduling certain things work in your favor. And this is just the start of that. You're not rushing to tell these storylines. They've been built up over time, and now it's when we're starting to get really hyped. All these matches start to really find themselves as we get closer and closer to Revolution over in Orlando on March 6th. And this is what you got to do. It looks like they have a good few weeks lined up of TV leading into pay-per-view. So, wow, it's crazy how that works, how booking can work really well for you when you kind of have an idea what you're building towards, huh?
Yeah, man. And it was just a solid show all around. Not a whole lot of fillers, not a whole lot of promos. And when we did get promos or vignettes, they meant something. There was something really great. Example, Michael Campbell's watching us on Facebook saying, everybody see Buddy in the House of Black vignette. Kinda. He was really blurry in the background. So we already heard earlier today from Fightful that Buddy Matthews is AEW bound. Which faction will he end up? I think this will be great. We've seen Malachi and Buddy go at it several times in WWE, but never together. I think this is going to be a great dynamic. We'll jump into that today, man. But let's start from the top of the show, man, because CM Punk delivered a great promo as always. But it was to announce the time and place and the rules of the match that he wants to have with MJF. He announced that he's going to have a dog collar match in Orlando. MJF came out to respond because CM Punk wanted him to come out to respond, and MJF was absolutely speechless. He left. The crowd was hot. I thought that was good. What do you think of the storytelling here between Punk and MJF heading into Revolution?
It's great. It was like a work of art. It was like a one-man stage play because again, he opened up the show sitting down in the middle of the ring, a la the pipe bomb promo that he dropped, and he did a really good like storytelling throughout. You know, talking about his return and MJF and all this stuff, and then again, just to bring it back, Piper in Portland, and of course, this leads to the reveal of the dog collar match, a la Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine at Starrcade 83 when they had their dog collar match. So I thought the whole storytelling part was really well done, especially when he brings up that picture of a young MJF at a meet and greet next to CM Punk, and then all of that wrapping up to MJF coming out, and he has nothing to say. For the first time, he's actually speechless. He can't bring himself to say anything. So this is a great story. And it just keeps adding more into this feud. And I think it's going to be a great dog collar match that we're going to see at Revolution.
I completely agree. I think this should be fun, which also kind of reminds me because, you know, I think the line he said is like the only thing that's going to be on the mat is not tan, but your blood.
Yeah.
Now, going and referencing into blood, fast forwarding a little bit, you know, into the show, Bryan Danielson had an amazing match with Lee Moriarty, very technical. It was a really good match. Bryan was able to get the win with a submission, very cocky one. Afterwards, he had a promo calling out Moxley to get a response from what he proposed a few weeks ago with teaming up. Mox responded. And one thing that he said at the end of it, he's like, I don't know if I can stand by someone if I haven't bled with them.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that we are going to get a match between these two, that after this match is over, they are going to get together. I think this is going to happen. I could feel it to my core. I feel it in my bones. I feel it deep in my heart. They're going to have an amazing matchup. But after John Moxley beats Bryan Danielson, then he will join him. And that's what's going to happen. Mark my words. It won't happen.
Hey, we'll see. But like you said, he's not saying yes, but he's not saying no. So I'm going to say the same when it comes to this eventual pairing of Mox and Danielson, which don't worry, Jose JR has been doing it ever since he arrived in AEW. He's been calling him Daniel Bryan. So have I. We have all been doing it. It's going to keep happening for a good while.
It happens multiple times in the show. I love this this comment here by Steven Chambers watching us on Facebook. Thank you again. As always, guys, we love you. Thank you for joining. And guys, make sure you're sharing tonight's show. Make sure you share it in your favorite wrestling group. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and share the link wherever you want, on Twitter and your favorite social media. Go ahead and do that now. He says, Punk versus MJF dog collar match. Will this match live up to the hype, comparing Piper versus Valentine and Cody versus Brody Lee? Both of these matches were very brutal. I don't know, man. It certainly has the ingredients to be a good match and to be a memorable one, especially with the storytelling they've been having with each other now for several months. I think, you know, WWE's way to kind of culminate this storyline is in a Hell in a Cell, and looks like AEW's is the dog collar match. So we'll see if it lives up to it. I have no doubt that it'll be a good match. I think it's going to be a very much talked about.
Yeah, I think it's going to be up there, just like you said, just because of the feud that's been leading up to the match. Plus, the guys involved, like they're good storytellers in the ring. CM Punk and MJF, I think, they're going to tell a great story. It's going to be bloody. I'm sure there's going to be blood on both guys' faces throughout the majority of the match. I think it's going to be good. So it just, they're setting that bar up high, especially when you reference those dog collar matches from before. So you set that bar for yourself now, CM Punk and MJF. Now you guys got to deliver. Just like I'm sure, like you were bringing up, the match that's going to deliver at Revolution is a triple threat match for the AEW Tag Team Championships. There's going to be 2 Battle Royals, Jose. Next week is going to be a traditional Tag Team Battle Royal. In 2 weeks' time, We're going to have a casino tag team battle royal. The 2 winners are going to be facing Jurassic Express for those AEW tag team championships at Revolution. So many there's so many teams that they can put both of these battle royals on. They can probably even use separate teams, even though a lot are going to be repeat, I would assume. But you have so many good tag teams that you can literally have 2 different battle royals and still just only have 2 winners.
Because of all them stables, bro, all them factions, man. That's the AEW way. Let's jump in over here now to the Revolution of the ladder match qualifier. We had Mr. Mayhem Wardlow going up against Platinum Max Caster with Anthony Bowens, with Wardlow getting the win. We had Bowens tried to attack Wardlow, but that didn't work. So looks like we added another person to that matchup. Keith Lee and Wardlow already qualified in that match. That's going to be a banger. So we also had this incredible no disqualification match between Thunder Rosa and Mercedes Martinez. I thought that was great. They held no bars, a little bit of respect shown later on. So I thought it was really good. They both showed a lot of what they can do. And I love that the women's division in AEW is getting better. They're starting to break a little bit more boundaries. They're bringing in more recognizable names. What do you think of this matchup here?
I thought it was good. It's not as good as the Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker match, obviously. Some spots was not so easy to watch. There was that segment where Mercedes was going for an elbow drop. She slipped, and it looked like she did really dig her elbow into the face of Thunder Rosa. When they did the Fisherman Buster onto the sideways table and landing on the bottom side of the table, that looked a little scary. But at the end of it, again, this just goes to show just, how brutal Thunder Rosa can be and how Mercedes Martinez, she's, the hit woman. She got brought in by Dr. Rebecca DMD in order to take out Thunder Rosa, even though she's not the only person that she's been getting assistance from, because she does have a Sensei Kreese, a.k.a. Martin Cove of the Karate Kid and the Cobra Kai series, is Dr. Britt Baker's sensei. And we got to see him at the end of the match too, because after Mercedes lost to Thunder Rosa, she goes to him and she's like I told you earlier, finisher, no mercy. However, it looks like there is a little bit of a split right now, as Jamie Hayter is the one that took out Mercedes Martinez, because Mercedes didn't want to take out Thunder Rosa after Thunder Rosa showed her that respect, like you mentioned earlier, after the match. So we're probably going to get a tag team match leading up to Revolution of Mercedes Martinez teaming with Thunder Rosa, going up against Jamie Hayter and Dr. Britt Baker DMD. But again, we just see more and more talent in this women's division. I like to see it. And especially with the signing of AQA, who had a solid showing against Jade Cargill last week, it just keeps getting better and better. So good job to the women actually finally building up that division and see what they can bring heading into Revolution.
Completely agree. And guys, just to give you a quick reminder, in a few minutes, we're going to be having WWE Hindi commentator Mihir Joshi joining us here on the show, giving his take on the Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards and also his take on NXT 2.0's Vengeance Day and this week's AEW Dynamite. So he's going to be joining us here in less than 10 minutes. So make sure you are sharing, liking, and subscribing to the show. Continuing on here with with this week's AEW Dynamite, we had another pretty good tag team matchup here. Jericho and Hager and Proud and Powerful's Santana and Ortiz, the implosion of the Inner Circle. Eddie Kingston made his way back to AEW, causing a little bit of a distraction going into the show. So Proud and Powerful was able to get the win, now earning that respect from Chris Jericho. But it looks like Jericho now is a little involved with Eddie Kingston.
It's Eddie Kingston versus Chris Jericho at Revolution. Yeah, that's pretty much out there for us to see. Which should be a good match. It looks like, Jericho could be at the end of his contract. He did sign for, I believe it was 3 years plus an option for a 4th year. And guess what? In September, it's going to be 3 years since the beginning of AEW. So he might not be, he might be joining his other AEW alum at another place at another time. We shall see, which we've seen your comments. So yes, it was nice to have an episode of Dynamite without having to hear Brandy Rhodes and without, Cody taking up time. But We'll
it was
see what
still
the
a
future
good
holds
episode
for them.
without Cody or Brandy, but there's been a lot of talk of Cody. He's been a hot topic this week. We'll get him. We'll get me his thoughts on that since he's going to be on the show here in a few minutes. But just to close out AEW Dynamite, we did have this tremendous TNT matchup. Anytime these two guys face each other, they put on a banger of a match, and we're talking about Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara for the TNT title. Sammy Guevara was able to retain the title, but it looks like Andrade now has his eyes set on that title as he's seen stealing and committing grand theft at the end of AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, so again, like you said, it's great when they have Sammy and Darby. This is 2 of the 4 pillars, arguably 5, if you want to also add in Dr. Baker. And they just leave it all out there. The stuff that these guys do with their body is ridiculous, especially Sammy when he went for a senton on the apron, knowing, Darby moving out of the way, him landing flat on his back. Him doing the big moonsault, landing on his feet. I think he did probably, hurt his knee just a little bit. I know he sold as part of the storyline for the rest of the match, but it didn't look good, especially when he hit that Spanish fly, when he didn't get the full backwards rotation. He turned as he was hitting Darby Allin with the Spanish fly. These guys leave it all out there. Is Darby doing the tope?
So worried about
the
that
suicide,
guy, man.
and then getting hit with a cutter in the middle of it. These guys always put on a banger of a match, but of course he had to add in the shenanigans now with Andrade trying so hard to sign Darby Allin to the AHFO. But thanks to Jose, the assistant, and Matt Hardy, he was able to make sure Darby Allin did not get that TNT title. So it looks like the next challenger for Sammy is going to be Andrade. And I think that's going to be a really, really good match between Andrade and Sammy Guevara when they finally face off one-on-one. It's like the, old and the new. It could be a nice little handing of the, passing the torch.
Definitely like a 2K22 video game matchup right there.
Just how many flips is Sammy going to be doing in this match, and what craziness is Andrade going to bring into this?
There's a lot of old schoolers that don't like that style, but we are living in a new era of pro wrestling. So, guys, sound off in the comments. Let us know what you thought of this week's AEW Dynamite. We'll go over your comments later on in the show. But Rico, it is award season. The Oscars nominations just been dropped. The Grammys are going to be here in a few weeks, in a few months. The Oscars as well. It's award season. And here at Sportskeeda Wrestling, we decided to take a crack at giving out our own awards. And we have compiled the biggest panelists, the biggest team all around the world, pro wrestlers, legends, Hall of Famers, TV personalities, podcasters. It's been a big endeavor. And we want to show you the legitimacy of I'm just going to run this Vince Russo promo and telling everyone how legitimate is it. And then we're going to bring on our special guest for today's show, Mihir Joshi from WWE Hindi Commentator. So he's going to be joining us here in just a moment. But let's run this Vince Russo promo so we can hype everyone to vote for the Sportskeeda Wrestling Award. So go ahead and do that now and check this out.
I got a little something to say about these Sportskeeda year-end awards. And it's not going to be pretty for the other people doing award shows, because all these other polls are fixed. They are all homers. Whoever is leading the polls are leading them in a certain direction. There was no trying to convince me one way or another. This was a straight poll. I know a lot of people from Russo's brand. A lot of people were involved in this poll. A lot of great former wrestlers. And I know they were honest to the T. Nobody tried to sway anybody in any way. So I give credit to Sportskeeda for having the first ever legitimate, let me say that again, legitimate year-end awards. Congratulations to you, Sportskeeda.
And guys, welcome to the show. Special guest, WWE Hindi Commentator, TV show host, the host of the MJ Show, Mihir Joshi.
Hey, good to be here with you guys, and I love the fact that these awards are happening right now. And like Vince Russo said, the first legitimate wrestling awards, because I mean, you got legends, you've got current superstars who are sort of putting in their views on top of it. You've got people like me who are doing commentary in other countries, and who are doing other stuff, and legitimate fans. I think the last I saw, that over 30,000 votes have already been cast, which is pretty insane. So that's amazing. I'm happy to be a part of the first ever Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards.
Oh, we appreciate you coming on to the show. I know it's morning over there in India, so
Yeah.
so thank you for waking up with us here. Did you catch a little bit of AEW Dynamite? Did you catch some of NXT?
I did. I mean, of course, I watch pretty much everything that happens during the week. Getting up early in the morning and watching it is a completely different experience. But yeah, I mean, we make it a point to keep up on everything that's happening in the wrestling space.
That's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you joining us. We do want to talk a little bit about the Sportskeeda Awards. You yourself, you are one of the Hindi commentators. You've been involved in the game now for a while. And I wanted to get your take on some of the categories. For example, the male superstar of the year. There's been tons of votes right now for the male superstar of the year. And just to go over some of these votes, some of these categories and the nominees, so some of our viewers can watch it, can see as well. Let me bring it up here on our screen. But we got some big names to talk about here when it comes to the Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards. We got names like Bryan Danielson. We got names like CM Punk, Big E, our tribal chief and head of the table, Roman Reigns, and Kenny Omega. So these are big names that you fans decided that should be in this poll, and now we're going to vote on who is going to be the male wrestler of the year. So I want to get your take on these nominees, and who's your pick for male wrestler of the year?
Man, there's just no conversation here as far as I'm concerned. I don't think anyone even comes close to Roman Reigns. I know there are going to be people who are going to argue with me and say that, hey, maybe Kenny Omega should be the guy. Because see, if you look at the other people on this list, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and Big E, okay, they've had great years. Coming into AEW, for instance, for CM Punk and Bryan Danielson was phenomenal. But you got to look at the two guys who kind of carried the company for a long time. One was Kenny Omega on the AEW side, and the other one was Roman Reigns for WWE. And I genuinely don't think anybody has had a more gripping storyline, a more gripping character than Roman Reigns. And I think for this generation, he's going to be the biggest star in terms of star power for a very, very long time. I mean, he kind of makes me think back to the days when, you had Ric Flair, being the champion in various territories. And you had, maybe Bruno Sammartino, who could be a champion for such a long period of time. Because look at it, he's already been the champion for almost 2 years. I mean, some 500 and something days, which is pretty insane. And at no point of time during his reign has it felt like, okay, the story is beginning to dip or his character is beginning to flounder. So I think for me, for sure, Roman Reigns is like a clear winner in this category, at least for this year.
What about you, Rico? Out of those five men, I mean, you have to agree with me here. We have to all acknowledge our tribal chief.
Of course, the way he described it is completely right. It really comes down to two people. It is really Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns. But you got to remember, Kenny Omega was a 4-time champion at this point, holding out the AEW championship, holding the AAA Mega Championship. He won, and he also took the Impact Championship. So he was holding all these belts. But you're right. I have to agree with. I give it to Roman Reigns. I acknowledge the tribal chief. I voted for him. But
I totally do, man.
But I voted for Roman. Okay.
Now, another interesting category that we have also on the wrestling Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards is the best comeback of the year. Now, we've had a lot of people return to wrestling. We've had people come back from injury, but there's 5 particular people that we do have to talk about when it comes to the best comebacks. And Brock Lesnar. We had Becky Lynch, who came back from giving birth. And I mean, you look in incredible shape. She was way ahead of time. W. Morrissey, who I had the pleasure of interviewing last year, who's making a tremendous comeback on Impact, Christian Cage over on AEW, and of course, CM Punk returning to the ring for the first time in 7 years. Mihir, I want to get your thoughts on this because these are all just crazy choices, especially in the latter half of last year.
Man, I'm going to go with the goosebumps factor here. You know, I mean, even thinking about it right now, I'm getting goosebumps. I don't think anybody had the kind of impact that CM Punk did when he came back. I mean, the fans were clamoring for it. And here's the thing, guys, when CM Punk was actively wrestling, I wasn't the biggest CM Punk fan. I've been a wrestling fan for about 25 years now. I've been watching since I was a teenager. But even when he was at the peak of his career at WWE, I wasn't that invested into the CM Punk character. I mean, of course, I loved him, but he wasn't my favorite guy at that point in time. While he was that for a lot of people, people loved him. People loved the storyline. And insanely enough, despite being in the entertainment industry for about 18 years, I'm straight edge. So I kind of identify with everything that CM Punk is. But I wasn't a huge fan back then. But when he came back, oh my God, the music, the eruption that happened in the crowd, people crying, it was just goosebumps. Like, I mean, thinking about it right now, if I can get goosebumps, that's a moment that I'm going to remember as a wrestling fan for the rest of my life. I mean, for sure, without a doubt, the biggest comeback of the year was CM Punk.
I think it's definitely one of the most talked about comebacks of the year. Would you say, Rico?
Oh, of course. Like, it was, to me, it was always a matter of when, not if, that he was going to come back to AEW. So, of course, the second that the cult of personality hits and you knew it was him, he was here, he's officially back. Just like you said, you got that goosebumps factor. But you also have the ponytail and the final boss, and that is Brock Lesnar. And you have Becky Lynch, who never lost her title, coming back and beating Bianca Belair at SummerSlam in what, less than 40 seconds? They were all big. But you know, the one I did vote for, Jose, and it was because, like you said, we got to meet him at WrestleCon, and just seeing the transformation and getting to speak with him and actually finding out his story, his journey, is W. Morrissey. And all the things that he had to go through, you know, going through rehab, finding himself, you know, getting back into ring shape. And now look at him. He's going to be facing off against Moose this Saturday. So, you know, for that Impact Championship. So just knowing it personally, you know, it was a little bit more biased, but I actually voted for W. Morrissey just because, you know, just the whole personal journey that he's gone on to get to where he is today.
I completely agree. You know, we just like you mentioned, we do know Morrissey at a personal level and what he's told us, but off camera, what he's dealt with, and it's you know, it's type of Cinderella story where, you know, the comeback, you know, so that's also a great story. But you know, CM Punk is a nostalgic act. You know, he's 7 years into the making, 8 now. And people were really clamoring for it. You know, people were chanting for it on a weekly basis on WWE TV. So for the fact that now the fans got him back on TV is a great thing for a wrestling fan, period. So let's jump into our last category here, which I think is an important one. Feud of the year. Feud of the year is very important because without a feud, you have no story, you have no TV, you have no a weekly episodic television. We wouldn't have a job, and Mihir wouldn't have a job, right, Mihir?
There you go. Absolutely, man.
So jumping into the feud of the year categories, we have Seth freaking Rollins versus Edge. We have Roman Reigns versus John Cena. We got Kenneth Omega versus Adam Page, Hikaru Shida versus Serena Deeb, and CM Punk versus MJF. Who's your pick for this category here, Mihir?
Man, these are all fantastic feuds. I mean, these were the stories that kept fans invested, that made people want to watch, you know, their favorite show, whether it was Dynamite, whether it was Raw, it was SmackDown, week on week. But just because of the promo battles that have happened, the insane level of you know, storytelling that happened in the ring, I got to go with MJF and CM Punk. I mean, like I said, my male superstar of the year, without a doubt, is Roman Reigns, and I would have probably picked any storyline that he was a part of. But in this in this one particular case, I'm going to have to go with MJF and CM Punk because, good Lord, man, their storytelling is phenomenal. Like, I want to watch their promo. I'd just be happy watching them do promos for another 3 months before they get into a match because it's just gold every time they talk in front of each other. So, yeah, for me, I got to give, just for the promo abilities, I got to give it to MJF and CM Punk.
Yeah, I think that's a solid choice. They do produce incredible promos every single time they do get on the mic with each other, and just building that anticipation to a match. I think it is going to be great come Revolution. However, in my opinion, I think when it comes to a feud, when you have a story that is so well done and said and come across, not only from a promo standpoint, but from a match standpoint, how can you not go with Edge versus Seth freaking
Edge versus, oh yeah, for sure.
Because the culmination with the Hell in a Cell alone and the storytelling inside of that match was just something that, you could probably produce a masterclass on. That's how good it was. These youngsters need to take a tip from that feud and apply it to what they're doing so they can learn how to tell a story on TV. Rico, what about you, man?
Ironically enough, there was 3 that were on, I couldn't decide until I ultimately made the decision. You guys mentioned 2 of them, but the one that I ultimately went with was the one that's been in the making for 2 years, that finally saw its culmination from the beginning of the promotion in AEW. I was there at the announcement pep rally over there in Daly's Place in front of TIAA Bank Field. It is Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, just for the long-term story booking that it took 2 years to get to this point, from them being enemies to being allies to being tag team champions to falling apart to won't they ever get the match, from Hangman not having the opportunity to finally having the opportunity. Everybody that was involved with the Young Bucks, Dark Order, all of this culminated to this one storyline, this one nexus point in AEW, when Hangman finally got the one win over Kenny Omega for that AEW championship. Now, I'm not saying what happened afterwards and all that stuff is the best that's happening, but the story that led to it, the feud that led to the match, I got behind. And not to mention, I didn't want to give it to CM Punk and MJF because it's still going and it's still getting better. So I feel that's a lot of recency bias. I almost went with Seth and Edge just because of the match, the way they built up those matches leading into Hell in a Cell. So those are 2 good ones. But overall, I like the 2-year-long ride that we got to see between Kenny and Hangman finally getting that AEW championship off of the cleaner.
Guys, I would highly suggest, if you haven't gone and voted yet, what are you waiting for? You still got 2 more weeks so you can put your votes in. We have more than 30,000 votes right now. You can head over to sportskeeda.com/wrestling-awards so you can go ahead and participate in this once-in-a-lifetime poll conducted by you guys. All right? You guys have the power. There's no editorials changing the votes or nominating or being biased. This is something that's powered by you guys because you are wrestling fans and so are we. So we really appreciate you guys doing that. Go ahead right now, sportskeeda.com/wrestling-awards. Mihir, you want to talk a little bit about this week? You want to talk a little bit about AEW and NXT?
Man, this was a fantastic week on NXT. Vengeance Day last year was brilliant. Vengeance Day this year was pretty amazing too. I think NXT has been consistently putting up great matches, even with this NXT 2.0. The guys that they have there are really hungry. They want to deliver great matches, and I think they did that yesterday. And Dynamite is always fun. I mean, I've been a WWE fan pretty much all my life, but I'm loving watching AEW right now as well because there are some fantastic superstars there. There are some great storylines that are happening over there. So, I mean, I think both this week's episodes were fantastic. I know you guys. I heard you guys talk about Vengeance Day. About Dynamite just a little while ago. What do you guys feel about Vengeance Day from yesterday? Which was your favorite match out of the few matches that happened yesterday?
The Vengeance Day card was absolutely great. I thought it was a good show from beginning to ending. But I thought my favorite match of the night was actually the opening match with Pete Dunne and Tony D'Angelo. That the
Wow.
weaponized cage match, I thought
Yeah.
was very brutal. I love that Pete Dunne got a decisive win on D'Angelo, so now he can move on to finally get that title match that he so longly deserves, man. That guy has been deserving a title match, a one-on-one title match for such a long time and hasn't been able to get one. And now I think he's going to get that opportunity at Carmelo Hayes. That match was absolutely insane. And I love the segment with LA Knight and Grayson Waller. You know, the tables got turned on him. That's always fun. But it was just all around a solid show. Dolph Ziggler interrupting the Braun Breaker matchup with Santos Escobar, kind of throwing up a little bit of interference, but that still wasn't enough to stop Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker's on the hell of a roll right now. So, but that opening weaponized cage match was kind of insane.
I gotta agree with that, man. The weaponized steel cage, the cage match was ridiculous. Like the kind of stuff that we saw happening yesterday was phenomenal. But I'm really impressed with Mandy Rose and everything that she's doing right now in NXT with Toxic Attraction, and how last week she was able to retain her title. This week, the JC Jane and Gigi Dolan were able to retain their titles. Toxic Attraction has all the gold, and it kind of takes me back a little bit to the Attitude Era, which was kind of what I watched growing up. And you had I get it. The wrestling has evolved tremendously, but I love the fact that NXT 2.0 is beginning to feel like, there's a lot more stuff that can happen, which is not happening on the main WWE television. So I think seeing what Toxic Attraction is doing is excellent. I love what Braun Breaker is doing, man. I think he's sort of the breakout star on NXT 2.0 right now, and I definitely see him getting onto the main roster in a year, maybe a year and a half from now. And I think he's the kind of person who would do really well even on Raw or SmackDown. So these are the two guys from NXT 2. The two, one faction and one individual who I'm really excited about in NXT 2.0.
You guys are talking about Braun Breaker and Toxic Attraction, but you got to remember, there's an A-champ on the show, and his name is Carmelo Hayes. And when he shoots, he don't miss same way he didn't miss when when you had Cameron Grimes trying to go to that moon, and he just shoots it down. Kicks it away.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, because the show was so stacked with so many good matches. That Carmelo Hayes and Cameron Grimes match, that match actually had the most time on the card on the show, and it was so good.
Yeah. It was, but he got an assist. You got to give it. He's not. He's always getting assists to be able to retain the title, which is great. That's the thing.
That's what a heel's supposed to do, right, Mihir?
Hey, that is true. Which is what I'm saying. So I think he's doing his part really, really well. Carmelo Hayes is without a doubt an interesting character to watch every week, and I think even during the time when they were looking out, what was the storyline where they were trying to find the belt a couple of weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, around the Halloween time. Man, that was interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's I think that's probably more the Bruce Pritchard writing part, because they got to that. That part of things. It wasn't that. It was okay. It was interesting. But one thing that was actually really interesting that I thought that was really cool, the Dusty Cup final. This was great. I thought MSK was possibly going to get that back-to-back year win, but we saw the Creed brothers. Man, the Creed brothers are right now on another level. I love their in-ring style. That they mix the amateur wrestling with the pro wrestling, which I can appreciate, being an amateur wrestler myself back in the day. So I love these guys, and I think these guys can get called up really soon too. These guys have that look and that attitude and that aggression that I can see them on a Raw or on a SmackDown. What do you think, Mihir? When I watched them, in fact, I had the pleasure of actually calling their semi-final match live on television. And when you're watching the match live and you're calling the action, you kind of get even more deeply invested into it. And it was phenomenal, man. It's the kind of stuff that you saw back in the day when Kurt Angle had his faction, and you had these amateur wrestlers who were doing
phenomenal pro wrestling, and you believed everything that they did. It felt real. It felt really gripping. So I thought they were brilliant last week. I thought they were brilliant yesterday. I mean, just the ending alone, man. Oh my God, the impact that they had and to win the cup. I think that was phenomenal, and I completely agree. I can see them coming up very soon. I can see them in a storyline against Alpha Academy. That would be perfect because with Chad Gable having the kind of amateur wrestling background that he does, to be fighting against a couple of young guys like the Creed brothers, that'd be pretty interesting to watch.
Rico, what's your take here on the Creed brothers not only just winning, but possibly being the ones to beat Imperium for those NXT tag team titles?
I wouldn't be mad at it. Like, we've been seeing it over the last few weeks. The crowd is really starting to get behind the Creed brothers. They've really found their niche as a tag team. Of course, having the mouthpiece in Malcolm Bivens always helps. But yeah, I can easily see them getting the win over Imperium. And just like you guys are saying, like, these are two guys you can easily see get called up. I think what Mihir said is great. Like, that'd be a great first feud against Alpha Academy. Imagine if you wind up, separating them from Diamond Mine and say you bring in like a Kurt Angle to be one of their managers, or you have them aligning with at some point Chad Gable, like to bring that amateur background, getting that Team Angle kind of vibes that we got from before. I think it's great. And we're actually really seeing 2.0 finding their niche now. Like, they're starting to really find those characters that are working, building on them. The other ones, let's find other ways to kind of approach it, like a Duke Hudson. So, they're finding their niche here. And we got to see it in this amazing card. You're seeing this talent in Tony D'Angelo, in obviously Grayson Waller, the Grayson Waller effect, as they're eventually going to get their match soon, LA Knight versus Grayson. But having Carmelo Hayes continue on as North American champ, the Creed brothers winning the Dusty Cup final, like, still with a great showing from MSK. Now we have Braun Breaker, of course, getting the win over Santos, but we even have Solo Sikoa stepping up to Gunta. So that's going to be one hard-hitting affair. So, you know what? You got to give it to 2.0. They're starting to get in that groove.
Mihir, I want to get your take on something. I want to get your take on the name change. You've been following calling matches for years now. When you saw the name change from Walter to Gunta, what was your initial thoughts? Or is this something, Jose? It's Gunta. Or is this something you can get behind? Can you get behind Gunta, or do you prefer Walter?
Man, see, I don't get it, okay? I just don't get it. He was freaking Walter for the longest time, one of the longest reigning champions in wrestling. Like, okay, he's really invested into it because you can see it on screen. Like, okay, he wants people to get behind the name, but you could hear it even when he was in the ring and when they were making the announcement, when they were saying Gunther, and then he corrected and said it should be Gunther, and the crowd is chanting Walter. I mean, come on, man, guys, come on. This is not some new kid who did 5 matches and then you said, okay, you know what, that earlier gimmick that you had wasn't working. Let's put you into a new gimmick. This is not even a new gimmick. It's the same guy doing the same thing with a different name, which makes zero sense. Like, okay, if they change, yeah, I know, yeah, man, I get it. They want to. It's all about the branding. They want the rights, but seriously, man, come on, you can't not work with Walter. It's like, it was such a good name, and he was one of the best champions that they had in NXT UK, and it makes no sense to me.
Sad.
Yes, you definitely do. Yeah, you're absolutely 100% right on that, Mihir. Let's jump into this main event here. Let's talk about Braun Breaker. Let's talk about Santos. We mentioned that Braun is looking absolutely insane. He's looking great. Looking like he'll be called up pretty soon. Who knows how soon he'll be called up, but that's how good he is. But he had an incredible match with Santos Escobar. If it weren't for Dolph Ziggler, this could have been like a really one of the most talked about matches, because Braun is all about the intensity, about the speed, about the agility, about the power, right? Santos is all about not only the agility, but he's about breaking you down mentally.
Yep.
Breaking you down. So 2 totally different styles. You got the styles of lucha libre from Santos, and then you just got the powerhouse style of grinding and powerfulness from Braun Breaker. But they say that styles make matches, and I feel like this, if we wouldn't have had any type of interference with this whole Dolph Ziggler situation, I feel like this match could have been that much better. What do you think, Mihir?
So, I like the fact that Dolph Ziggler is being used on NXT because genuinely, I think he's a phenomenal guy who's been wasted pretty much on the main roster. And he's bringing a ton of star power and a lot of eyes to NXT because for whatever it counts, for people who are casual fans, for people who've not really checked out NXT 2.0, when they hear that, okay, there's a feud in which Dolph Ziggler, who's a recognized name, okay, he's not Randy Orton, he's not he's not Goldberg, but he's still a recognized name, multi-time champion. He's pretty much achieved everything. For him to come back, get into a storyline, get Tommaso Ciampa involved, who is basically NXT 1.0, to have all of these things happening together is interesting. I mean, it was inevitable that Dolph Ziggler would get involved with the match in some way, but I didn't really hate it that much. I thought the match was fantastic, and I love Braun Breaker. He kind of I just mentioned Goldberg right now. He kind of takes me back to that Goldberg era when Goldberg was huge in WCW and he'd come in and destroy pretty much everything. Super powerful guy, super focused and intense kind of a guy. I think Braun Breaker is definitely going to be able to carry that kind of a superstar feel and look into this generation. But I think I like what they're doing with the storyline, getting Dolph Ziggler involved, getting Tommaso Ciampa involved. I think it's going to make for an interesting story in the next pay-per-view. What's the pay-per-view around?
Stand and Deliver.
Stand and Deliver.
Yep.
Yeah, around in the WrestleMania weekend. So yeah, that should be great.
Rico, what about you? What did you think of this main event?
Oh, you guys said everything that really needs to be said. The only thing is going to be, when are they going to decide to finally bring Braun Breaker up? Who is he going to actually drop the title to continue on the legacy that is NXT 2.0? Because it was all written in the stars. Like when Tommaso Ciampa was still champion and you bring out Braun Breaker and then the whole story about, you're not ready, young pup. That whole storyline, bring him up along, finally losing the title to Braun Breaker. It's only a matter of when, not if, he's going to get called up to the main roster. But I do like how they're influxing this talent from the main roster. We saw AJ Styles, a couple months ago getting involved with the Grayson Waller effect. Like, as long as we keep using them to keep propelling the younger guys in NXT 2.0, then I think it's a great idea. I think somebody mentioned it earlier. I think it was Chris Aldridge was saying it would be great if the glorious Bobby Roode came back, not the dirty dog Robert Roode that we have right now. Bring him back in the suits, trying to put CEOs in chairs. Have those kind of guys make that impact that are, popular with NXT, kind of show that, it's a change, kind of like passing of the torch, use these older guys to really get these young guys along to show them how it's done. And it's just nice to show some cohesion between NXT, Raw, or SmackDown now when you had Tommaso Ciampa show up on Monday Night Raw on commentary during Dolph Ziggler's match. Like, those are great things to keep NXT on par. Like, we know it's developmental, but you're holding in higher esteem as opposed to before. That's when you would have the Walter become Gunta because you changed him from NXT to the main roster, and it was a completely different world. Now those worlds are intertwined. So I think it's one hand helping the other, and I'm looking forward to when we're gonna have this match of Dolph Ziggler versus Tommaso Ciampa, and possibly even a triple threat match. For Braun Breaker's NXT Championship at Stand and Deliver. So I like what they're doing with this.
Jose, I gotta add one more thing. I like the fact that Tommaso Ciampa is very deeply involved in the story, but at the same time, I know he's wrestling matches on main event right now. He's getting ready to very likely come onto the main roster at some point of time as well. We already saw him on Raw last week as well. I mean, on this week's Raw. What's interesting is it feels like Tommaso Ciampa is on his way out of NXT, and while he's doing that, he's really, really elevating the NXT title storyline. He's making it feel so much more important, and he's giving it. He's saying that this is my house. This is the place that I built. This is the place that I put on my shoulders and took it to this level. And being here is not. All the things that he said in his promo this year. That me wanting to be here is not out of fear, but it's because of the love that I have for this place. It's interesting that at the end of it, I think he's going to get out of that place and go onto the main roster. But this is a heck of a way to go, because this is the way you go out of that place, really make it feel special, and keep the door open to coming back there at any point in time and saying, hey, that was my house. Okay, I'm here on Raw now, but I can keep coming back to NXT to sort of shake things up and hold people accountable. So I think they're doing a great job with Tommaso Ciampa and bringing in like a big name like Dolph Ziggler into the equation. That's fantastic too.
Yeah, I think it's all about the leaving it better than when you found it type of mentality, right? With Tommaso Ciampa, he wants to leave it better for Braun Breaker, so Braun Breaker can leave it better for the next generation. So I think that's what he's trying to do, and the story is being told beautifully. So let's jump into a few questions here before we let you go here, Mihir. We have a fan question here. Asking Victor Nash. It's a quick off-topic question. What are your thoughts on the match that should be in AEW on March 11th? The Lucha Bros versus Dem Boys, the Briscoes at HOG Wrestling. There's been a lot of hype behind the Dem Boys. The Briscoes heading to AEW. A lot of fans want to see this match in AEW, and the fact that it's not happening has a lot of fans a little bit pissed off. What's your take on here, Mihir?
Man, I think AEW has become the genuine alternative to WWE, and the Briscoes have been talked about for such a long time. They've had such an incredible run in ROH, and now that they've got the opportunity to go anywhere, it's going to happen. And to see them against the Lucha Bros, that's going to be one hell of a match, man. I mean, I can see why fans are clamoring for it. I can see why people are really excited about that match wanting to happen. And I think it's just about it's a matter of when and not if. I definitely see that happening, because the Briscoes, I mean, they got to go. If you've left at such a peak from one promotion, you want to go to a place where you are at a higher level. And right now, the alternative for them is AEW. I mean, of course, I don't see any reason why WWE wouldn't be interested in them either. But the kind of style that they have, I think that fits in a lot more with AEW than it does with WWE.
There is a little thing happening in 2 weeks. Here it is called a Casino Tag Team Battle Royal, where you kind of need a Joker. So don't be surprised if that final entrance, that Joker card gets flipped over and it's them boys, the Briscoes, making their AEW debut.
Yeah, that would be good. There's a battle royal next week as well, right? You guys were talking about that, and the winner of that and this battle royal will face off against the Lucha Bros.
The Jurassic Express is going to be
Jurassic Express. I'm sorry. Yeah, they face off for the titles.
I would love it to be Lucha Bros because they were my tag team of the year. By the way, make sure you guys go vote in the Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards. But yeah, it could very well be Red Dragon and the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express for the AEW Tag Team Championship at Revolution March 6th in Orlando.
Certainly going to be interesting here in the next few weeks while we build up to Revolution. Guys, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us and spending some time here. I want to thank Mihir for spending his morning here with us here on the Debrief on Sportskeeda Wrestling, talking about the Sportskeeda Awards. Guys, make sure you get your votes in right now at sportskeeda.com/wrestling-awards. All right, get it in right now. Don't let your vote go to waste. Don't let your voice be silent. Let us know who your favorite superstars of the year are. Go ahead and sound off and vote now. Go ahead and do that. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are right around the corner from 26,000 subscribers. So we want to thank you so much to every single one of you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And make sure, if you're following us on Facebook, make sure you set your notifications to see first so you never miss whenever we drop brand new videos, brand new content, or whenever we have breaking news stories. So make sure you have all those notifications set to that. All right, guys? But here, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you follow me here at Mihir Joshi Music. Follow him on Instagram. Follow him on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you enjoy being on the show?
Hey, that was so much fun. I had a great time. And most importantly, what you just said right now to everybody watching, this is a phenomenal award ceremony that's happening. The first one where the fans are actually making the decision. So guys, get involved, vote. Somebody just rang my bell. This is the joy of being in a studio, which is at home. But yeah, thank you guys for having me here today, man. I had a great time. I'll see you guys soon.
I appreciate you guys. So, all right, as always, remember, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, when you guys are watching wrestling, you have to do the most important thing, which is what, Rico?
Enjoy it. Enjoy wrestling.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Have a good night.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!